Our hike starts at the assigned meeting location, Jurong Point Popeyes. By the time I reached, my companions for the hike were already there. Finn, the guy from the previous hike, and new faces Terrence and Ashton. After we ate our dinner, we headed off to the real starting point, Tuas Link MRT station. It was there where we would link up with the last member in the hike, Jingwei. The concept is the same as the last video, hiking across Singapore, east to west, starting at Tuas Link MRT station and ending at Changi Airport. By the time we rendezvoused with Jingwei, the time was 9:40 PM. Tuas Link MRT station. We snapped a quick photo to commemorate the start before the hike officially started. This hike was personal. For those that watched the first Walking Across Singapore, you know that I bowed out of the challenge halfway. I was weak at that time and had to retire without going the full way. 1 year and 1 month later, I'm back to try the challenge again. After all, I did make a promise at the end of the first hike.
And yeah, like I said, mark my damn words. I will finish the hike some other attempt. May not be tomorrow, but I will definitely finish this hike some other day.
Anyways, back to the present. We started off the hike in the Tuas industrial area again, and if you watched my previous hike, you know that I absolutely hated this portion back then, and the sentiment hasn't changed. I hated this industrial wasteland called Tuas, and I wasn't alone. Not even an hour into our hike, Ashton and Jingwei were also already extremely eager to see a HDB building, because at least that meant there was some form of civilization.
Jingwei, is walking through Tuas demotivating?
Yeah. Bro, there's nothing here.
Yeah.
I still not followed a single thing of magic. Bro, we're in bump nowhere.
Despite this, like with the first hike, spirits were high during the first hour. Our energy was good and we were goofing around. However, I learned my mistake from the last hike. I knew we needed to not get complacent and up our pace, because that was what killed our first attempt, having a very sluggish pace.
Xiaoyu's checking in because he just wants to stop already.
Yeah.
I want to stop. Just kidding, I'm so locked in. I'm so locked in, you have no idea.
By the first hour, we reached Golf Circle MRT.
We are at Golf Circle right now. What is the status of everybody? Terrence, you can start.
I'm going strong, yes.
Alright, what about you? Okay. Jingwei, what about you? Okay. Finn? Okay.
I'm locked in. We're locked the fuck in.
Alright.
I'm locked in.
We felt like we were making good time, and that helped our morale, which was good because we needed as much as we can get, especially with how long we were staying in this foreign industrial hellscape. There were also some parts where we were kind of creeped out, to say the least.
Right, look at that. There's a window in that thing.
Oh, nah. Someone lives there, bro.
At least we were able to do what we wanted in the empty roads and have a bit of stupid fun.
2, 3.
Fantasy car, will it pre-work out?
Alright guys, I'm thinking of throwing in the towel.
This is nothing new.
I'm just kidding. I'm locked in, baby.
We're
We're all locked in.
2 hours in.
I'm locked the fuck in.
Wait, check, wait.
For the first stretch of the hike, it required us to take the route that Finn and I had taken in the first one, which is why you can see some familiar, I guess, landmarks.
They're grade 1. I'm special grade.
I won't bore you with 8 minutes of Tuas footage again, so let's skip to when something interesting happens. By then, it was 12:44 AM. We had roughly walked 12 kilometers at this point, and we were feeling a bit fatigued. I think for Terrence, Stingray, and Ashton, for their first hike across Singapore, reality started to hit that we were really going to be hiking for just a while more.
Beat us! 你好，我是你的狗。
It must have relieved them when we spotted a gas station just across the street. We were eager to restock on supplies, rest a bit, and hit the road again.
Oh my god. Civilization. Okay, not civilization.
gang.
A gas station. Oh my goodness.
When we saw the gas station, we joked a bit about it potentially being closed, since during the first hike, our first stop, the McDonald's was also closed on that day. So yeah, it would have been quite ironic, right? The gas station was closed. More specifically, it was shut down. To add insult to injury, they shut it down on the exact day we went there. It definitely stung a bit, but we found it more to be funny than anything.
You didn't even.
Besides, unlike the first hike, we didn't make a specific detour to it. It just so happened to be on our path, so we pressed on. After recreating an exact one-to-one replica of a pretty obscure album, we reached the point of the hike where Finn and I started to cross new territory. Like I said, we were all eager to see a HDB building at this point, and Google Maps pointed us in the direction of civilization.
Everybody wants to see a HDB.
I really
Right
want
now.
to see HDB, man.
Yeah, you see.
I really want to see HDB, honestly.
I'm not alone in the original hike, okay? I'm not crazy. I am not crazy.
Where?
Where?
There's nothing. Don't lie to me, Terrence! There's nothing. It's just a whole lot of buildings and like... Man, what the is this? This is not Singapore, man.
It seemed like our next major checkpoint was going to be Pandan Reservoir, a place where none of us had gone to. We weren't expecting much, maybe a change of scenery at the least, but when we got there, it blew us all away.
Oh my god.
Wow. Look at it, guys. What the fuck do you call those HDBs?
The tranquil waters, the light breeze, the HDB buildings, it was exactly what we needed to boost our morale again. This part of the hike represented a major turning point and was a sign that we were actually making progress. I can't understate how good the feeling of being back in civilization felt, as well as being in just the open air. With spirits renewed, we approached the reservoir's, overlook. It offered a well-lit resting place as well as a water cooler, which was huge. After refilling our water bottles, we rested for a few minutes before entering our first HDB estates. Oh my god, it felt so good after all that industrial nonsense. We were all energetic. If things couldn't get better, we also spotted a 24-hour coffee shop, which meant that there was potential tea and coffee for all of us. All was looking good. But this is the part of the story where disaster unfortunately struck. On my way to the coffee shop, I wanted to listen to some music, so I took out my left earpiece. As I was going to put my earpiece case back in my pocket, I dropped it, and the case tumbled dangerously close to the nearby canal, but thankfully it stopped right at the edge of it. I picked the case back up and I thought that was that.
Oh my god. Oh, my earpiece almost dropped in the thing.
After we got our drinks, I decided to put my left earpiece back in my case, but when I opened it, I saw that my right earpiece was gone. My heart honestly stopped beating for a few seconds. I sprinted back to the drain and I combed the grass surrounding the general area, but I could not find it. After searching for a while, I came to the frustrating conclusion that when my earpiece case dropped, my right earpiece fell out as well, and it tumbled into the drain filled with moving rainwater. There was absolutely nothing I could do to retrieve it, especially in the dead of night. I was quite honestly upset. I'm quite a sentimental person when it comes to my stuff, and my earpieces especially. I try my best to never lose them, and losing one of them to a goddamn longkang, I'm not gonna lie, it affected me for a few hours as we continue hiking. And continue hiking we did. The show must go on, with or without one of my earpieces. We hiked along the road where Commonwealth Secondary School was at, before deciding to use the park connector near Pandan Reservoir. It was at this point of the hike where I started to lag behind. At the time, I kinda saw it coming, considering that I exerted a lot of my dwindling energy while trying to find my earpiece, so most of the footage I had was me being way behind the rest of the group. I tried my best to get better shots for the video, but my legs weren't up to it. They started to falter. I'm sorry. Once we reached the end of Pandan River Park Connector after a lengthy walk, we came across something very not good. The connector was blocked. We had absolutely no other way of going forward, which meant that we had to backtrack to continue moving. Not gonna lie, with my mental being both exhausted and irritated, this didn't help much, but there was very little else we could do. After passing along a couple of bungalows, private police facilities and HDB blocks, we reached the point of the hike where the fastest route was along these long winding roads. By then, it was 4 in the morning. Remember how I said I was lagging behind? Well, the gap between me and the rest of the group was starting to grow bigger and bigger. My legs were already kind of aching at the Pandan Park connector, so around like 15 kilometers later, can you imagine how painful they were now? Jingwei had to rush to go number 2, so Finn and Ashton rushed with him, leaving me and Terrence to catch up at the next checkpoint. Terrence kept up with the same pace as me, not because his legs were fatigued like I was, but it was more so the fact that he was very sleep deprived. Regardless, we pressed on together, and we reached the next checkpoint in the hike, which was a 7-Eleven in this private condo area. We got our food and ate at a nearby bus stop. This definitely helped everybody in the group, as it was the first real break that we had since the reservoir, but this time we had a bit of food with us. My mood also slightly improved, and in honor of my earpiece, I made a bold declaration.
I make a declaration in honor of the missing earpiece. I will complete this hike, okay? I will complete in honor of my missing earpiece. Mark my words, okay?
I needed something to give me the long-term motivation to finish the hike, and I might as well change the frustration I had into a bit more energy. After our rest, we continued walking. I didn't really feel like the rest did anything to help the fatigue in my legs when we continued hiking, so I wasn't surprised when the rest of the group were already very ahead of me. Despite the declaration I had just made, this road was honestly the most miserable part of the entire hike. Not only was I alone, as Terrence had regained a bit of energy to catch up with the rest, there wasn't anything interesting around me. It was just these tall trees. Hell, I'd argue Tuas was more interesting, okay? Tuas. That's how you know things were that bad. I just kept walking and walking and walking, walking and walking and walking and walking and walking. In an effort to get my mind off the pain, I started thinking about the end stretch of the hike and my condition in general.
So, I am so behind from the rest of the group. It's 6 a.m. now, just hit 6 a.m. So, we've been walking since around 9:30 p.m. So we've been walking for 8.5 hours. Walking straight, minusing all the breaks, so like 30 minutes, so like 8 hours. We've been walking for 8 hours. They still seem to be going very strong. I'm basically walking by myself at this point because I can still walk, but I cannot keep up at their pace. Yeah, so I can just keep. I'm just walking at my own pace, and my pace is quite slower than theirs. I'm not gonna say whether or not I think I can do this trip, finish it. I did make a bold declaration just now, and I intend to keep it. I do intend to keep it. That's all I'm gonna say. Yeah, I want to keep it. Yep.
I wanted to get off this torturous stretch of road as soon as possible, so I was very thankful when I saw the end of it, as well as Napier MRT station. By the time we reached Napier MRT, it was 6:30 AM. The people of Singapore were starting to come alive, but more importantly, reaching Napier MRT station meant that I had officially gone further in this hike than I did the first one. So, yippee, I guess. Reaching Napier MRT station also marked more or less the halfway point of the hike in our eyes. It looked like it was in the center of Singapore to us at that point, and it was enough reason for us to celebrate for a bit. For those that often take the Thomson East Coast line, you know what the next stop after Napier was. Orchard. Okay, technically it's Orchard Boulevard, but you get what I meant. We were starting to enter the city area. If you were at Orchard Road on the 15th of March 2024 at roughly 7 AM, amongst the clueless tourists and snappy businessmen, you'd see us. 5 sweaty Chinese teenagers in hiking wear. We wanted to get breakfast before continuing on, and the only semi-affordable breakfast place in Orchard was McDonald's. It was around 7:30 by the time we entered the place, and I didn't really feel like eating anything, so I just ordered iced Milo whilst the rest of the group got to munching. We stayed in the McDonald's for like an hour and a half, and when they were done eating, almost everybody except me just fell asleep, likely due to the sheer exhaustion. During the first hike, I quit after we ate breakfast in the McDonald's, but in this hike, I still had enough mental willpower to continue on. However, my legs had other plans, as I was straight limping for the first like 10 minutes after I got my fat ass off my seat.
So let's try standing up. Oh my god. Oh. Yeah, actually, yeah. Oh.
When we left the McDonald's, it was 9 AM. The sun had officially risen and we set off, with the major difference that we were now hiking under the hot sun. The streets had naturally gotten a lot busier, and unlike a few hours ago, where the fastest route was just a straight line, we had to make a lot of turns and cross a lot of roads in the city. Notable landmarks we passed were Dhoby Ghaut, SMU and Fort Canning Hill. We made decent progress here, and by the time it hit 10 AM, we had reached Raffles City. Of course, with all that progress, there was a trade-off, namely, my legs.
Walao, it's not looking good for me, right? I'm not gonna lie, it's really not looking good for me.
I think this point was when my legs had reached a new peak of pain. It wasn't fatigue anymore, it was pure, unadulterated pain. I could slowly feel myself reaching my limit. If I kept walking and the pain got worse, I would be seriously slowing down the rest of the group, and we would never get to the end.
So close yet so far, oh my god. If I get off this fountain seat thing, my legs just explode, I cannot, ouch.
I had to make a serious decision for the future of the group. I had reached a decision. I will not be quitting the hike. Instead, I would split out from the rest of the group and meet them at the end point. I just needed to go at my own pace and rest for a few more minutes. We bade each other farewell and I rested for around 30 minutes before limping again. I had hiked way too long and way too far to quit now. I was a victim of the sunk cost fallacy. I really wanted to just go home and lay down on my bed, but I needed to complete this. I slowly cut through the likes of Suntec, Marina Square and Fullerton 1 before a major roadblock stood ahead of me, the Benjamin Sheares Bridge. This is where my claim of hiking across Singapore comes into jeopardy. You see, at least to me, this bridge was an enigma. That is to say, I had no idea how to actually cross to the other side without being flattened to death by the cars. The map points to taking this flight of stairs, but there is a problem.
But the thing is, it goes that direction, which is not where we want to go, because the direction we want to go is over there, like there. So, I mean, yeah, I don't really see any other alternative way to cross the bridge unless I am very wrong.
It turned out that I wasn't alone in finding this bridge confusing, because the boys also thought so. By the time I reached the bridge, they had already crossed. So I called and asked them how they did it. And they crossed it by taking the fraudulent option. They took a bus. Believe me, when I heard this, I was just as appalled as you. But I didn't want to waste any more time deciphering this shitty bridge, so I bit my tongue and just took the bus. So yeah, I took a bus. I'm a fraud. I didn't like it, okay? The bus ride roughly covered around 6 kilometers, so we technically only walked 45. After the bus ride, I was now more or less at the final stretch. East Coast Park. The sun was beaming at this point and it was not fun at all. I didn't have anybody to complain to, so I just kept going. If I'm being honest, East Coast Park wasn't that terrible, since on that day it was a bit windy and I liked the peace and quiet of the park, as well as being next to the ocean. Oh yeah, speaking of the ocean, I'm not gonna lie, at the time, seeing the beaches of East Coast Park really made me think of how far we actually went. From seeing Malaysia at Tuas in the west to touching the beaches in East Coast Park, we really hiked a long way. I know I said I was going the full way, but I was seriously considering just stopping here since I already walked such a long distance on such an empty tank. Besides, Tuas Link and East Coast is basically east to west, right? Right? Like at Raffles City, I eventually knew I had to come to a decision. Stopping at one of the pavilions, I called the boys to tell them that I was officially stopping. By the time I was halfway across East Coast Park, the guys already had more or less exited the park and were in the Changi area, closing into Changi Airport. When I told them, they tried to convince me to push on, but I made my peace. I made a long run and I was satisfied with where I ended. I did it. Changi Airport. You thought I was gonna stop there at East Coast Park? I told you I was locked in. After all the trials and tribulations, nope, I gave one last shot and ended up here. Terminal 4, Changi Airport. East Coast Park was tough, especially Area F, but after that, the walk to Changi Airport wasn't that hard. The last major hurdle was the Changi Jurassic Mile, where it was no joke, just like this, for like 2 kilometers. At least I had the many dinosaurs to keep me company. And so, my journey ends. After 19 hours, 45 kilometers, and without one of my earpieces, I reached Changi Airport. If you were wondering, the boys finished like 2 hours before me. You could dock points off the bus ride, but we did it. You best believe the bus ride back home was worth it, and the sleep afterwards even more. Thanks to Ashton, Singwei, Finn and Terrence for making the first half of the hike entertaining as hell and doing this insane challenge with me. And thank you for watching.